Hello, good data people and data analysts, and welcome to day 2 of 30 days of Data Viz, where I create a data visualization every day for 30 days. Now, I also invite you to create a data visualization every day for 30 days to improve your skills as well and share it with the community. If you put it on Twitter, I will comment. Today, we're going to be talking about a scatter plot, one of my favorite chart types out there. And we're going to be seeing how to make the chart that you're seeing right now. But then we're also going to jump over to Google Slides and add some custom formatting on this as well. If you remember, it doesn't really matter how you get to your chart. That's not the important part. The part that we're working on is the communication and visualization of your data. So we want the end result to look as good as possible. And according to your skill set, you're going to get there a lot of different ways. It doesn't super matter. So what we're looking at right here is actually universities and colleges in the United States. And what I want to do is I want to show you the original data, show you where we ended up, and then show you how we got to this viz. So let's jump into it. The very first thing is I want to show you is what data are we looking at. So I pulled this data off the web. I'm happy to put a description in the link on how to get it yourself. And it's basically just a bunch of colleges and rows. And you can see here we have in-state tuition, which I work with later. I also look at number of applicants, and then we have total undergraduate size, and then we also have university type, so whether it's public or private. And I do some transformations. I'm not going to go over that in this tutorial because that's not the focus, but what I end up with is I end up with this table right here. So I have the name, I have the university type, I have undergraduates in terms of a float, in-state tuition in terms of an integer, and then the number of people that applied. Okay, so what I did here, and let me zoom out. No, I'll zoom in still. Maybe zoom out. So what I did first of all is, let's not even go over that part yet. Let's just do the basic scatter plot, and I will show you what it looks like fresh. Yeah, that's what I thought. I will show you what it looks like fresh. Okay, so what I will do is I'll remove all the extra stuff, and I'll put that down below. Great. So actually, and remove this one. Fabulous. So if we were to just run a basic scatter plot, this is the output that Matplotlib would do for us. And here on the x-axis, I have the number of applied. So this is the number of students that applied to a specific college. And each one of these dots is a college because each one of these rows is a college. That's why scatter knows to create a different chart for it, or a different dot for it. And then on the y-axis, it's the in-state tuition. So think of this as how expensive is the college, and then how many people applied, which is kind of interesting to see. But there's, there's some different attributes that I think that we could pull out of here that would actually tell us a whole lot more. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to apply an alpha. And what the alpha means is it will make these dots semi-transparent. Now, the reason why we do that is because when you have a lot of overlap, right here, it kind of muddles the data a little bit. And I'm not sure, is this dense data? Is this area more dense than this area or whatever it is? So alpha 0.3 means I'm going to make my dots to have 30% transparency. So I do that. Okay, great. Now you can see that these dots have then become a bit more see-through, and you can really see where the dense areas are. And you could change this to, maybe to 0.1, and that's not bad because you can see where the really dense areas are, but I don't love how you can't see the the ones more on the side over there. So I'm going to call it 0.3. And then I'm also going to make this chart bigger, where this is where I do fig size is 20 by 15. So that's 20 inches by 15 inches. Great, so we have that, and you can see our dots have gotten a lot smaller too. This really just helps me show more detail in the data. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a size parameter. So size is going to dynamically change the size of each of your scatterplot dots based off of another parameter. So in this case, I'm going to do the number of undergraduates. So the larger the dot, the more undergraduates there are in that university. And then here I'm going to do a little bit of scaling voodoo, a little bit of scaling gymnastics to make the bigger dots bigger and the smaller dots smaller, but then reduce it by 300 so they don't appear too big. We do that. And you can see here we got some big universities down here. We have some super small, expensive universities up here. Cool, makes sense to me. And then the next thing I'll do is also there's a university type. So whether or not it's private, public, or private for profit. And so with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some colors. Now, the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to create a color dictionary up here with my known values in that column. Like I said, private, public, and then private for profit. And then I'm going to assign a color to each one of those via a dictionary. And then what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to run an apply function, and then I'm going to go pull that color value for each of one of those university types. And if we wanted to see what this looked like all on its own, I'm happy to show you here that we're going to be using later. So if I were to run if I were to run this right here, you can see here that we get a big long list, the same length as our data frame, according to the color that is mapped to it. So think of this as like a mapper. Okay, go ahead and get rid of that. Rerun. Oops. Need to add, there we go. And so cool. Now what we get here is we get the color per university type. And what's interesting to see is I know that this color up here is the private schools. So what this says here is, yes, these private schools are very expensive, and on average, they don't have that many people applying to them. Whereas the public schools in red right here, it's not that expensive. A lot of them are under 20,000, but they're going to be big, and two, they're going to have a ton of applicants, which is pretty interesting. And that, I think, will be the insight that I'm going to pull from this one. Great. So the last tutorial on day one, you might have saw me add the X label and add the Y label right in here with Matplotlib, but I'm going to do a little different route today. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, I want to screenshot this guy. Great. And then I'm going to go over to Google Sheets. So Google Sheets is I use this a lot. And this is for really specific custom formatting, so you can get the chart exactly how you want it. Now, I won't make this perfect, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put my takeaway up at the top. Private schools are expensive, less applicants. Okay, great. And I like the Poppins. We'll make it bold to really call it out. And the next thing I'm going to do here too is I'm going to create a little bit of a custom text, because these don't look very good at all to me. I'm going to make this smaller, and I'm only going to do the big ones, and so that you can see just the technique that we're doing here. Center that, make sure it's good. We want Poppins, looks fabulous. Great, and then I'll make sure this 80K lines up with the top. And the way I like to do this, just zoom in and then make sure it aligns with your top. Great. That one we want to turn to black. Go back. Cool. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put 80K right there, and I'm going to put 0 right here. 0K, not 0K, just 0. Fabulous. But you see here we have a double. We don't want to have both axes on there, so I'm just going to crop this and bring it in. Fabulous. Bring that a little bit closer. Now let me add my label. So this is going to be, I believe this is in-state tuition. And I'll put the unit that we're dealing with, which is dollars. Great. And then I will over here put this label, which is number of applicants. Great. Okay. And I want to do the same thing I did over here, right here. So this is 100K. Great. And then over here, we're going to put 0. And for this one, debating if I want to do vertical lines for the ticks. Sure. Why not? Just to stay consistent. I'll make sure that's on 0. Make sure that lines up. Change this to black. Add it again over here. Beautiful. And then crop this guy up. So we have that. And I want to get rid of that outer bounding box because that doesn't look as good. Fabulous. And so because this one is, because this one is stretching across, I'm just going to go ahead and put that right there because I think that looks better. And then same thing with this one. Let's go ahead and stretch that guy up. Fabulous. So there's our chart. I think that's looking a whole lot better, except this part isn't going all the way up to the top, which we do want to do. Let's bring that up right there. Wonderful. We'll fix that tick situation. Let's just move it to the side instead. Cool, that looks good. Number of applicants, make this nice and big so our audience can read it. Great, so the last thing that I'll do is we will do a private, public, and then private for profit. We will do a legend to describe what the colors are. And the way I'm going to do this is a little bit of creativity here. And I'm going to just put the name with the color that's associated with it. And then private for profit, you see there's a few down here. It's kind of hard to see, but those are yellow. So we'll make those an orange-ish. Great. And let's put this on the left-hand side. Fabulous. And then the last thing that we'll do is we'll do a very quick legend for the dots. So I'm going to start this off by making these really big. And let's go ahead and center these on each other, horizontally center, and then let's make them smaller. And that one's too big. And then let's add and instead of being numerical on this, I'm going to call it low, medium, high. No, small, medium, large, fabulous. And I want to make sure that these are the same size as my, I'm going to add just a little bit of spacing. Cool. Let's put this up at the top so it's easy to work with. Great. And then I want to make these black so it's easier. Fabulous. And so we have our two other legends right there. Looks good, except I don't want these to be in the public, to be in the prime time space. So I'm going to put these over here. Wow, this is annoying. Okay. Beautiful. And this looks too small for me, so let's get this up to 25, nice and big. Fabulous. So no, it's not as polished as we could be, but that is okay. It's the big chunks that matter. And this is our scatter plot of our universities for day 2 of 30 days of data viz. Now I'm going to go ahead and tweet this. I'm really stoked to see what you guys do as well. So let me know and tell me what you think in the comments.